Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to the video. I hope everybody's day is going great. Today, we got some drama to talk about. A lot of it has to do with Geguri, Shanghai Dragon's new player, also the first woman in the Overwatch League. And she's actually been doing a pretty damn good job lately, so big shout out to her to start this off. But unfortunately, Geguri has landed herself in the middle of some drama. It's not too major, but some people have had some questions about a certain situation that did happen in the past. Alright, so you guys might be wondering what I'm talking about, so I'm going to start from the very beginning. So a while ago, in earlier stages of Overwatch, there was a Korean team, the name was Dizziness. On this team, there were actually some really notable players. Let's go ahead and just go down the list of the people who were actually on it. We had Raccoon, then moving on to the second player, which is Flower, very well known guy. Moving on to the next one, Janice, also very well known. They played with LW Blue. Janice is now on the New York Excelsior. Flower, one of the biggest rising stars who is under 18. Then moving on to the next couple, we have Elta, not very known. Then we have Fire Z3, who was on this team. And actually, this is Xepher. So Fire Z3, he moved over to LW Blue and he changed his name to Xepher, but he was kicked out of LW Blue because of this situation, which we'll talk about more. Then he was picked up by Kong de Panthera. Then when that came out, he was also kicked. Moving on to the last two players, we had Strobe and Fitz. Alright, so this Dizziness team, they actually accused Geguri on Invin, which is Korean Reddit, of cheating, and it was very bad. They didn't just publicly accuse her of cheating. Some of the players said if she was proved to not be hacking, they would quit the game. Even one of the players went as far as sending death threats over to Geguri, which is just absolutely disgusting. Very sad. And as I said, it went very far. A lot of these players on this team were very adamant about saying she was hacking, and they wanted to prove that she was, or they want proof that she wasn't. Fortunately, though, a lot of the big names on the team that are still in the scene, like Flower, he was one of the only players on the team who was against them actually publicizing the accusations on Invin, and he wanted no part to do with it. So good for him, and that's probably why his career is still intact. Same thing for Janice. As for the guys like Strobe, Fitz, Raccoon, the ones you don't really hear of anymore, they were the ones who were going very far and very vocal about this whole situation. Now, what this leads to is there's been a lot of people wondering what has been going on with Geguri and Xepher, since Xepher was on this team and he was kicked from LW Blue and Kong de Panthera after they found out he was a part of this whole situation. And as I mentioned earlier, Geguri was doing an AMA, and she answered a lot of questions that had to do with this situation. She said this about Xepher: "There's been a lot of talk about Xepher. Our relationship wasn't bad in the first place, nor did we talk to each other. He never did anything to personally harm me, and the controversy around him started because he was on the same team as the accusers, and I don't think that is right. I don't have any ill feelings toward him, and I hope we can all get along. I'm really okay. Since we're both in the Overwatch League and play the same position, I think we all just motivate each other. I'm really okay. Don't worry and just have fun watching the Overwatch League. We both play the same position, and he plays Diva very well. I have a lot of things to learn from him. I also learned a lot from Zumba. There was even a time where I prayed about wanting to play as well as Zumba before a match. Also, I ate with Xepher recently and with the rest of Seoul, and we talked. His eyes were very sparkly, and it was cute." So it seems like Geguri is really hashing the whole thing out, saying Xepher was really never involved in any of the harmful things that were said about her, which is good. I'm glad to hear that Xepher, is a good guy and wasn't one of those players who got real nasty with this. Unfortunate situation for Geguri. I mean, damn, she must have been really good for these guys to go out and say that stuff, though. It's also awesome that she was able to move on from all of this and still make it into the Overwatch League as the very first woman in the entire leagues. It's absolutely amazing. I mentioned it earlier, she's been playing very well recently too. Shanghai Dragons, they've looked much better. So I'm very happy for her. She also said that Xepher had a sparkle in his eyes and it was very cute. So, maybe we get an Overwatch League relationship, the first one ever. Maybe we get an Overwatch League baby, guys. What do you think about that? Alright, maybe I'm taking it too far. I gotta slow down. But that would be awesome, dude. An Overwatch League baby. Alright, let's move on. This wasn't the only thing she said on her AMA, though. There was another interesting thing. She responded to the fans, basically, them hating on her teammates, Shanghai Dragons, for their bad performances. This is what she had to say in response. "I chose to join Shanghai Dragons because I wanted to see how my talents can help the team out, and I thought this would help me improve as a player. I was afraid that I would stagnate when I started out, but right now, I am very glad to be a part of this team. I also dislike it when people say I'm the only good player in Shanghai Dragons, because we all try our best, and their efforts are the reason why I look so good in matches. So I only want people to stop that misconception of me being the only good player in the team." So it's awesome of her to defend her teammates like this, and honestly, anybody who says Geguri is the only good player on Shanghai Dragons, pretty dumb, because Addo has been playing out of his absolute mind lately. Dia looked really good in their last match against Philadelphia Fusion. Fearless has also been playing good. I think they're just lacking in support play right now, but all is looking good for the Shanghai Dragons. They're improving very fast. They look much better than they ever have before, and I do think they'll be able to pick up a set in Stage 4, specifically against the Dallas Fuel. That's going to be a very exciting matchup, and I got my calendar marked for that date. So that's pretty much it for Geguri and all the really big things she said in her AMA. Now let's move on to the next thing, which I don't know if you guys saw. I figured I'd share it with you guys because it was pretty damn funny. On Twitter today, I don't know, was everybody trolling Harsha or something? But let's just go ahead and take a look at it. So taking a look at the screenshot, Monte Cristo, I think, was the one who started it out. He changed his profile picture to Harsha with a mustache, and he said, "Hello, I am Harsha." Then San Francisco Shock did the same thing. Monte Cristo responds, "Welcome to the Harsha Revolution." The harshening has began. Reinforce responds, "I refuse to become Harsha." Harsha actually posts himself, says, "I always thought you'd look good with a mustache." This guy edited a mustache on Reinforce, looked pretty good. Then Doa joins the party. The only name you'll hear, Harsha. Harsha is the man standing next to you. Harsha, look out. Harsha is here. Oh, God. Then Sideshow joins in on it. New profile pic. Uber getting in on it. Monte Cristo more. And then Bren was the last one to hop onto it. Obviously, there was a ton more who did it. This was just absolutely hilarious. I love Harsha. We had some beef in the past, you know, but we're cool now. I love Harsha. He's a great guy. I find this just extremely funny. And now let's go ahead and move on. Alright, for the last segment of the video, let's go ahead and talk about the Overwatch League standings for Stage 3. Last week really didn't go how I thought it would. You know, the standings are just completely everywhere. So many teams are still in the running to have a good chance at making the playoffs for Stage 3. Now that there is 4 teams, and it depends on these really interesting matchups we have coming in this week. So let's go ahead and start out taking a look at it. Sitting comfortably is the Boston Uprising at 8-0. They have the opportunity to become the first team to go undefeated throughout an entire stage. That would be absolutely amazing for them. I'm sure nobody expected that coming into the league. They have secured their spot 100%. Moving on to the New York Excelsior, they're sitting at 7-1. They have also secured their spot 100%. No matter what, nobody who is outside of the top 4 can collect 7 wins. So that means New York Excelsior will be moving on, even if they lose both their matches this week. Moving on to the Los Angeles Valiant now. They are 6-2. And they are very much in danger depending on how they do this week. If they lose both of their matches, which is very possible, we're going to take a look at their opponents later, there's a good chance they won't make it. Moving on to the LA Gladiators, they're in a very similar position. If they lose both their matches, they're probably not going to make it. If they go 1-1, it's a bit shaky. As for the Houston Outlaws, Philadelphia Fusion, Seoul Dynasty, and San Francisco Shock, they all must go 2-0 this week in order to make it into the top 4. And then depending on who they are, they might need a little bit of help from some other teams. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the matches coming up this week and see who has to do what to make it. As I mentioned before, it's all over the place, and a lot of these teams actually have to play each other to figure out who's going to move on. So they're going to be knocking each other out. Let's start off with the LA Valiant, who are in the safest position. Yeah, if they go 0-2, they might not make it. But there is a lot of possibilities where they go 0-2 and they still make it off. So LA Valiant, they're sitting pretty. Obviously, they want to be safe and control their own fate, win one of their matches this week, and they're 100% in. But in that scenario that they do end up going 0-2 this week, that leaves the door open for a lot of those teams like San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty, specifically Houston and Philly, though, who can catch up map-wise. So LA Valiant, if they go 0-8 and lose both their matches this week, they'll finish 6-4 and +5. That means Houston, Philadelphia, Seoul Dynasty, and San Francisco Shock will have to get above +5 to overtake them. For the Houston Outlaws and Philadelphia Fusion, it's more likely that they have a chance to do this. Philly, they'll have to go +5. Houston will only have to go +4. So LA Valiant is definitely in danger, especially considering their second matchup of the week is against the Philadelphia Fusion. So let's go ahead and move on to the Philadelphia Fusion real quick and talk about them. They're facing the Dallas Fuel. That's an easy 4-0. So that will give them +4 maps and leave them at +4. And if they beat the LA Valiant by a scoreline of 3-1, then they'll overtake the LA Valiant in maps. So for the LA Valiant, they really want to be able to win some maps this week. If they go 0-2 in their matches, as long as they win like 2 maps against Boston and then 2 maps against Philly, they're pretty much safe. But if they end up losing all those maps, they're in a really tough spot, and Philadelphia Fusion will probably overtake them. Alright, so now that we've covered the LA Valiant, a little bit of Philadelphia Fusion, let's move on to the LA Gladiators, who also control their own fate. If they are able to go 2-0 this week, they will 100% move on. But that is also unlikely because looking at their matches, they're also taking on the Boston Uprising, and similar to the LA Valiant, I don't think they're going to be able to go up against the Boston Uprising and beat them. It'll probably be a 3-1 for the Boston Uprising. And then the other matchup for the LA Gladiators this week is Florida Mayhem, which they probably will win this, putting them at 6-4 for this stage, and their maps will probably be similar to how it is now. I'm guessing they'll beat Florida Mayhem something like 3-1, and they'll lose to Boston Uprising probably 3-1, leaving them at +5. So for the LA Gladiators, it's a bit easier to guess where they're going to be at the end of this week. Unlike the LA Valiant and the Philadelphia Fusion, we have no idea who's going to win that matchup. So Gladiators, they just need to pray that they can either 2-0 or at least get a lot of maps off of the Boston Uprising in their loss, and then 4-0 the Florida Mayhem so they can have a better map score. As for the Houston Outlaws, they're taking on the San Francisco Shock in the Seoul Dynasty this week. And to be honest, for the San Francisco Shock, they don't really have much of a chance to qualify. Even if they go 2-0 this week, they're going to need 2 4-0s, and they're also going to have to hope that the LA Gladiators, the Houston Outlaws, Philadelphia Fusion lose some of their games and just don't get a lot of maps. It's going to be really tough for them. Seoul Dynasty, it's kind of the same. They're sitting at -2. It's not as bad as it is for the San Francisco Shock, but they'll need some help as well. It's the Houston Outlaws, Philadelphia Fusion, LA Gladiators who are really fighting for this last spot. LA Gladiators are obviously a little bit more comfortable than the Houston Outlaws and Philadelphia Fusion. They have more wiggle room to potentially lose a match. Houston and Philly, they 100% have to win both because it is 100% fair to say LA Gladiators are going to beat Florida Mayhem. So like I said at the beginning, guys, it is really all over the place, and a lot of these teams just want to control their own fate and just win out. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to maps won, because there is a good chance that Philly goes 2-0, Houston Outlaws go 2-0, LA Gladiators go 1-1, and the LA Valiant goes 0-2. That would leave all 4 of these teams sitting at 6-4, and then we'll have to go to maps and tiebreakers. And Valiant's looking really good on maps. Gladiators are looking decent. Houston Outlaws need a bit help. Philadelphia Fusion need a bit help, and then Seoul Dynasty and San Francisco Shock, they're going to need a lot of help. And that's basically it, guys. Let me know down below who you think will move on. As well as that, let me know what you think about all the Geguri situation. And thank you for watching, guys. If you're new around here, don't forget to click the subscribe button, like the video, join the giveaway, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.